Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Old Ways Actual Play team. This actual play uses the 7th edition Call of Cthulhu tabletop role-playing game rules by Chaosium. This actual play is performed by adults and in an adult setting. While we try very hard to stick to languages for all ages, listeners should know that this podcast may include mature themes. All content, including names, places, events, companies, and etc., that may bear resemblance to entities living or dead, is strictly coincidental. My name is Michael Dent, and for tonight's game, I will be your keeper. Thank you for joining us again on another episode of the Old Ways podcast. I am your keeper, Keeper Michael, and we return to our Spotlight series, this time with our spotlight turned on an investigator named Sam. So, if you would, give us a full introduction.
This is Alex. I'll be playing Sam Balmoral, who has most recently gone through an extensive psychological treatment series with Doctor Tattenbach.
Indeed you have. And those listeners who are part of our Patreon backing can get that 3-episode journey, we'll call it, if they go to patreon.com/The Old Ways Podcast. So we're going to raise the curtain on Sam inside the hotel room where he has been quietly, or maybe not so quietly, piecing some things together about himself, when perhaps it's the fresh air from Paris's nightlife that comes through the window, but you get the feeling that the four walls of this hotel room are simply just they're a little claustrophobic. Maybe you need to get out and exercise a bit.
Yeah, they were definitely fine when I didn't have a sense of who I was, but now they're a bit small for sure.
The curtains there across the room are kind of lazily moving back and forth. The late February air here is a little crisp, but Paris is just at the outskirts of your ability to hear. You can hear the nightlife of Paris continuing. And most certainly you can smell the aromas as well, whether it be the passersby who have been at perhaps a nightclub or a tavern, or maybe it's the pipe tobacco that someone just down the block is enjoying. But the rather sterile air of the hotel is now beginning to grate on you a little.
Stand up and snuff the light in the room. I let my eyes adjust. I don't know if these rooms have balconies, but I will definitely go to the window and open it fully. I don't know that I've looked out the window yet. Well, how far up am I?
That does seem to be the trick. So the Balmoral Hotel is a rather reasonably large structure. It sits at a very specific point in Paris. It gives you a really amazing view of the Arc de Triomphe, at least as far as its proximity. The hotel itself is I think it's about 5 floors in total if you count the roof and some of the other sections. Each of these hotel rooms have a very small terrace window. And I mean, the terrace is no more than maybe a foot deep. But it does allow you this easy double door opening and then the ability to look out onto the street below. And you get this nice alabaster white exterior, which even under the moonlight here that's available for you gives you some view of the street below. You're 3 floors up.
I think it's going to be important that if I'm going to be able to contribute at all, I need to know that I'm still capable. So I'm going to go back into the room and get my jeweler's tools and my torch, because it's pretty much all I really have.
Maybe 8:30. It's definitely gotten late enough to where the sun here has set. The moon is out through the clouds. And you know full well that if you're going to be hunting these things, if you're going to be solving these sorts of problems, you are at this point ill-equipped to deal with them.
I don't even know the terrain. I have to go. I'm going to stand on the ledge of the terrace and take a nice deep breath.
It smells like Paris.
Okay.
Yeah, you get a gritty, almost metropolitan feel, right? You get the sense of the people who live here, what they do with their lives. You can almost feel it under your fingernails before you take leave of your window.
Is the hotel isolated, or are there adjacent structures?
Oh, yes, several adjacent structures. So essentially, the hotel itself is one portion of a very long, say, 2 or 3 block row of these 4 and 5 story, what look like a Paris apartment buildings that are smacked right against each other. So across from you, there is a very similar structure with maybe deeper terraces, actual balconies, right? And then along your side, you could easily choose to go up or down. There are drain pipes that you could likely climb to and then slide down, or choose to take the opposite vertical method and climb up and then get onto the roofs of the building.
That's what I'm thinking for now, only because I don't really know. So I have some needs. There are some things that I need to acquire, and I think it's going to be important that I not be seen removing them from their places of storage.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to hunt for, I guess, a survival outdoorsy store, somewhere that someone might want to get hunting supplies.
Okay.
Someplace with stuffed dead animals in front. Or in the window.
Okay.
A lodge, I suppose, something similar. A place where hunters might gather.
To do hunting and gathering?
To talk about their guns and the latest thing that they killed that, will result in being an endangered species 50 years from now.
Really? Yeah, it's I don't imagine it's too difficult for you in this area of Paris, being fairly close to some rather upscale clubs. If you, say, spend about an hour or so doing some light reconnaissance, you can probably get some word that there is a few blocks away. There's a Parisian hunting club that has a national office, not too terribly far, say maybe 4 or 5 blocks from where you're staying.
Yeah, I will attempt to make my way there, and I will definitely stretch my legs and allow myself to be a bit brave with gaps and climbing. It's more important to be quiet, but I need to feel able.
Sure.
I don't know how dangerous these things are going to get. All I know is how dangerous they've been.
Yeah, that's true. It's undeniable that they have been dangerous. I mean, it sadly has, led to the loss of a compatriot. It's led to all sorts of terrible situations for the entire group. And so as you carefully, but somewhat probably in regiment, kind of pick your way over the Paris rooftops, the nice part about the section that you're in, 4 or 5 stories up, is it offers you quite a bit of walking room. You can really get some interesting challenges on the structure here, whether it be walking down beyond, kind of away from that national monument, the Arc de Triomphe, and getting to some of the higher structures. You also get a chance to dive in and behind chimneys to use them as natural cover points for the apartments that do have tenants who are either out on their own balconies or terraces just enjoying the Paris evening. It almost feels like retraining those muscles all over again, as if you'd been in, a deep slumber.
I'll give into it for sure. I'll commit. I don't do any hooting and hollering, but I feel like I'm enjoying myself.
It probably comes a little bit back from muscle memory, but really it's the actualization, it's the understanding, and your brain gaining that, first few moments of confidence after you make the first couple of jumps or the first couple of climbs that, yep, this still works. I can still do this. And I'm still really good at it. Your arm having recovered from the doctor's very specific care has been, quite frankly, it's been very encouraging.
And I've got a gnarly scar.
You do, but proof that what you fight is real.
Shoulder to wrist.
Yep.
Yeah, I go to the... let's go visit that... what'd you say it was, an office?
Yeah, it's basically their headquarters.
Oh, okay, sure.
So they go out to places near and far, whether it be Africa or South America or places in the East, and they collect beasts. Their offices are probably no more than 5 or 6 blocks away. You will have to eventually go to ground level because you'll have to cross the street.
Mm-hmm.
And the boulevards here are just way too wide to get across. And there's no grapple guns as of yet, so you'll be forced to use the street level.
Give me time. I'll probably cross early and examine the potential approaches from the building or of the building, because I imagine street side is probably not going to be the route that I'm going to go. Front door doesn't seem like a great idea.
Probably not.
I don't even know if it's occupied or if there's people present. I will case the building.
Okay. So you spend a little while casing the building. It's a almost pie-shaped street. So it comes... A lot of the Parisian streets are, as they head towards specific areas, seem to be almost pie-shaped with their streets and their buildings. But what you do find after probably about 20 minutes of just walking the area and kind of casing things, you think that if you got in maybe one of these restaurants, they have a ground floor restaurant with maybe some apartments on top. If you somehow could find a way into the apartment portion, you might gain access to a window that would lead you, or a stairway that might lead you onto the roof. And at that point, you could kind of pick your way back through the roofs that are here until you landed on the back side of the lodge. And at that point, just from your vantage point that you have of the backside of the lodge, it looks way less protected and way less obvious. Like there's a skylight that you could potentially have access to via the roof.
So, and you said if the back is relatively quiet, does it look like I could just free climb to the roof?
Yeah, absolutely. But you'd need access to get to that section of the roof. I mean, you could probably free climb from the street level up the side of the building, but you'd have to really be careful about who saw you do that.
Well, ideally, no one would see me. Ideally. I mean, is there traffic at the back of the building?
So the back of the building itself butts up against other apartment buildings, like directly. Okay. And so to get to the quote unquote empty space in this pie, you'd have to get into one of these other buildings to get to that empty space.
Okay, I will look for a ground level window of hopefully either an empty residence or one that's gone to sleep. Okay.
I don't think that's terribly difficult for you to find. I mean, this is an area that is probably mostly...
Yeah. So it's restaurant ground level, right?
Yeah. Well, some of them, yes. Again, large space here. We're talking basically like a city block and a half area that's pie-shaped. Okay. So you have a lot of options, but you do find some businesses that have closed for the day. And so you might be able to use a window there to get deeper into the structure and then have access to that, basically the empty portion, the empty zone in the middle of this pie.
Right. Yeah, I'll definitely try to find a business that is closed. I'm unconcerned. I mean, if it happens to be a useful one, then great. But if it's, something that isn't really going to pique my interests, I will just move through it anyway.
Yeah, I don't think that's difficult for you, especially with tools. Getting in these windows, they're not meant to keep out, we'll say, trained professionals.
Well, today I'm a burglar, so that's okay. I'm gonna burgle.
Yeah,
burgling.
Burgling yourself into one of these windows isn't hard. The trickiest part for you, honestly, is shutting the window behind you without anyone noticing. And so you do get a little, you have to take probably 4 or 5 breaths underneath the windowsill after you get in to make sure that no one has seen you and that no one's calling for someone, to come pay attention, that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's no one stopped in the street.
Right.
Looking in my general direction. Yeah. Let's hope they ignore this building. Yeah, I'll take my time, especially if it's quiet.
Yeah, this is a clothier.
Oh. I look down at myself and I realize I'm kind of wearing these are not my clothes. I mean, I'm wearing clothes, but these are not my clothes. I'm wearing a dead man's clothes.
You are.
I will head over to a rack and I will select some clothing for myself.
Okay.
I'll grab a pair of trousers, some suspenders, a loose fitting shirt, light jacket, shoes, socks.
Easily found here. It looks like they tailor to basically everybody. There's even some, it looks like they have 1 or 2 heavier coats from the winter months that are still on the rack here. And you get this almost like a naval coat thickness in the wool. And while you are heading to warmer climates, a thick coat can conceal quite a bit.
You've sold me. So to make this easier for myself, I will pause my current hunt and I'll look for the accessories. I want to find the bags.
Oh yeah, there's some here.
I'm going to select a few canvas bags, like 4.
Okay. Are you looking for any specific size or?
I mean, it's just like a large canvas bag, like a duffel.
Okay.
If they're canvas, they collapse pretty well, right? I should be able to stuff them in there pretty easy. And this will make my gathering a bit easier. So then I will go back to the clothes and shove what I had set aside into that bag.
Okay.
I'll grab some cleats too while I'm at it.
Interesting. Never know when those might be useful.
I mean, that's why I'm grabbing them. I'm assuming they don't have climbing stuff here, so.
No, not that kind of outfitter.
No. So yeah, I'll just grab some cleats. That's fine.
Okay.
I don't want to get too bag obsessed, but I likely grab a couple more small bags or belts or whatever as I'm walking toward the whatever is going to get me upstairs. So, I was just occasionally yank. Here's a tie. That's lovely.
Why don't you make me a spot hidden roll?
Oh, you snuck me.
I did. It's fine.
Failure.
Okay.
98 over 58. That's an awful failure.
It is. You get spooked. Something moves in the darkness here in this shop, and you don't notice it until it is nearly on top of you. It's near the counter, right where your right arm is, where you're passing by. And you
I'd probably yelp.
Yeah.
I probably yelp.
You hear a sound in return, and it's a long meow from evidently a feline.
Is it looking at me?
It is. It's a rather tall, for a cat anyway, black cat that is sitting on the counter, and you can see its kind of wide, large green eyes staring at you.
I'll side eye it as I continue slowly putting the tie in the bag.
It continues watching you.
Fine. I'll leave.
Seems to watch you go.
I will leave the door open when I go upstairs.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm looking to make my way to the roof, right? Or yeah.
Yeah. Making your way to the roof from the service area back of this shop is not hard. The stairway basically goes directly up, and eventually you find a windowsill that just by a careful peek out, you could easily open and then make your way to the roof itself. You have to climb the outside of the building, but there are a very amount of handholds, whether it be pipes or, various wrought iron
not
pieces.
Far either.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll climb out.
So the roof itself is here, at least on this portion of the shop, is fairly low. And so you're going to have to climb up onto a much higher portion until you can get basically onto the same level as the lodge itself, the main lodge building. But I wouldn't say that it's difficult per se. The nice part about these roofs is many of them are staggered, so they go up and down, and they maybe are only up and down by like 7 or 8 feet. So it's really more of a concerted effort to leap a little bit, grab the lip of the next roof, and then pull yourself up, which even after your grievous arm wound, you still have enough strength in your arm to pull your body weight up.
Well, that's good. That would be awful.
It would be terrible.
It would make this much more difficult.
But you see it there after your first and then second ascent. You see far, probably a good 50 yards or so, you can see a series of skylights. There's a differing visual pattern there in the roof, so you know where they're at.
Then I will take another breath and begin making my way there.
Interestingly enough, there are a couple of almost minaret-style towers on the left and the right-hand side of this building. Kind of reminds you a little bit of some of the buildings you had seen in a couple of the other cities that you've traveled to over your long career. But there's even like a metal stairway that runs down from the taller part of the lodge roof. It's probably for service people to get to the skylights. Skylights notoriously in this era leak. So,
of course,
here you are.
I thank them for installing skylights.
I doubt they'll thank you.
What's the drop from the skylight to the floor?
Just looking at it, 20 feet. Not impossible, but...
I guess I will walk the skylights until I can try to identify some sort of interim drop point, be it a shelf or a table or something taller. Giant stuffed bear. I don't know what these guys are. A T-Rex.
You actually find a fitting but somewhat challenging target, and that is along one side of this room where the skylight is. They have basically pipe that holds up a series of shelves, and the shelves go vertically. The piping itself is probably only about 6 feet or so high on either side that hold up the shelves. But the best part is that it's basically starts at 4 feet and runs all the way to 10 feet. And so if you aim for that pipe, as long as you don't completely mash your body against the shelves, you should be, relatively speaking, it would have the fall distance. And it gives you a pretty strong...
the way down.
Yeah, gives you a strong target to grab against.
Okay. I haven't spotted anyone, have I?
You have not.
All right, then I will open the skylight.
Okay. You open the skylight. There's definite noise and creak from it opening.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to slide in and begin pulling it closed. I don't want to slam it while I drop. So I will, I'll pull it most of the way closed while I hold on and let it drop like my, finger's depth or whatever. While I drop to the, drop and attempt to, I guess, catch the pipes.
Yeah. So this is going to be, likely a dexterity roll, because there really isn't, unless you have some sort of skill.
I just have climb.
Yeah, I don't think this is really... I thought about climb. I'm just not sure it's valid for it.
I'd rather roll dex. We're good.
So I'm gonna say that this is a hard dex roll. This is a pretty difficult thing you're doing here.
Failure means I miss and I fall 20 feet, right?
Well, unless you want to push or spend luck, yes.
Sure. All right. That is a 17 out of 75. That is a hard success.
All right.
This is meant to happen.
You leave the vestiges of gravity behind, and you swing, letting the skylight quietly seal back up. And you propel yourself in just the right amount of force and distance to snatch onto the pipe. And you kind of grab on with your left and your right hand, and then almost instinctively use your feet one on top of the other to kind of accept the weight as your body lands on the pipe.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a simple, just letting gravity do the rest of its work and lowering you to the ground with a simple and easy placement of your feet on the floor.
I slide down.
Oh.
I resume breathing.
This is a very nice lodge room. Look at all of the beasts that they've slayed.
I'm unimpressed unless there is a faceless bat thing on one of these walls. Unless there's like a rhino. Rhinos are kind of crazy.
There is a rhino.
Okay, that's kind of cool. Like it looks cool.
You also see a lion. There's probably some birds here, just because that's kind of those are the quote unquote pretty things. You see an American grizzly bear, and that thing looks enormous.
Yeah. Okay. So these chaps are probably pretty well organized.
Oh yes.
Which leads me to believe that they would store all their things someplace that they think is safe. So I'm going to look for that place.
Okay, that's definitely spot hidden.
With a hard success, 21 out of 58.
Okay, so it takes you about 20 minutes or so. The building is rather long. It's pretty large, actually. It almost looks like a converted mosque. There's even several rooms here that have mosaic tiles that don't at all adhere to the lodge's, we'll say, more European aesthetic.
Sure.
But in the bowels of one of these minaret towers, you find a library or study room where it looks like, for lack of a better term, there are some pelts on the wall, so to speak, but with their more technical, how they were captured, kind of detailed documentation. Some of it's actually a little intriguing, especially the rhino one, like how they hunted it and how they survived capturing it. But that's when you come to basically a large mahogany set of double doors. And it's fairly clear that just from the smell that is in this room, that there is likely weaponry on the other side of that door.
That's good to know. I would like to be on the other side of that door.
It is locked for sure.
Okay. I will put on my little jeweler's lens. I'll put my torch in my mouth, and I will kneel at the door.
Okay.
And I will get to work on attempting to open it.
All right. You flash the light in there and look around. It's, a series of 5 tumblers. It doesn't look super, super complex. You don't see anything in it that would betray any sort of specific mechanical traps or devices. That doesn't look like these things. It looks like it's locked because, well, there's weapons in it.
Yeah, someone had a key. They turned it.
Right.
I want to undo their good work. If only for a while.
Go right ahead.
Is that locksmith? Call the locksmith.
Yeah, it would be.
With an extreme success, 4 out of 57.
Yeah, this lock is fair. It's not excellent. It looks like it's been worn at probably a little bit over the years. Maybe this was at one point already a part of whatever building was here beforehand. But you slowly and very carefully press the tumblers aside, and the lock gives away as if it was meant to be.
I'll put my tools away, leaving the torch out, and I will pull or push the door. One side of it, whatever side had the doorknob, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a pull. They seem to come open almost like warehouse doors.
I give it a heave.
You give it a heave, and in the space beyond it, there's a complete setup, right? So anything from weapons storage to cleaning implements to ammunition making. It's probably the most significant setup you've seen in several years. Like when you're talking about, say, historical things that are part of Sam's further story, you probably have seen a lab like this before, but it was really only held by revolutionaries.
Yeah, or despots or
yeah.
So yeah.
Someone similar.
Or the U.S. military.
Hey, we need a guy in here, 8 hours a day making rounds for us just in case. Okay, well, get them the supplies that they need, and here's the machinery to make the ammunition. Clearly, there are there are likely very special loads in here. There is a collection of rifles and shotguns. Most of these are hunting weapons, right? So you don't find a whole lot of pistols, although there are some revolvers here, but most of this is rifles.
Yeah, I seem to be like rifles and shotguns.
Yep. So you'll have quite a selection here as far as the rifles go.
I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer for me. I have to replace the Lee Enfield, so that is. I look for one. I look for if these are men of taste. There's probably one here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Enfield was used quite a bit in the war, and it's definitely something that you find here. You probably find several Enfields here, just in different types. There might be one here with a scope. There's probably one here that has like an adjustment that's been made to the stock for the user, like whether they want it thinner or thicker or molded grips and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I will grab a rifle and some accessories. I'm going to grab the one that feels the best. I mean, that's pretty much the best I can hope for. If there are useful accessories for it, like a scope or, I mean, there's no like laser sights in the 20s, right?
No, there are no laser sights.
there's no night vision.
No, there's no plasma rifle in a 20-watt range. That doesn't exist either. But
if there was a BFG to be had, it'd be in this room now.
You would probably find a 45 caliber Henry rifle here too.
Okay.
So that is something that is a little smaller as far as the rifle goes, and it's lever action. Doesn't shoot as far as the Enfield, but you also know that it can fire faster because it's lever action, like under lever action.
Why not both? I take them both. Let's see, one's a 45, the Lee Enfield a 303, so I will acquire some ammunition for both as well. Some extra magazine for the Lee Enfield.
Yeah, easily done. I mean, you know for a fact that the Henry rifle, because of the higher caliber, could likely at certain ranges hit harder, just because of the caliber of the weapon. But systematically speaking, in Call of Cthulhu, instead of the Enfield that does 2d6 plus 4, the Henry rifle does a d8 plus d6 plus 3.
Yeah, I like it.
So it can definitely put a bit more punch into things.
Yeah, I will definitely pick up both. I need to replace my knife as well, so I'll look for a good hunt.
Yeah, that's easy enough to find. You have your pick of shotguns too, as far as gauges as well. So you could have anything basically from 10 to 12 to 16 to 20. Any are available for you.
You know, I think it's got to be... Man, that's tricky. I'll come back to the shotgun, I suppose.
Okay.
Are they carrying any... I'm probably not going to find like a machine gun in here.
Well, actually, tell you what. Why don't you make me a luck roll?
Sure. I would gladly make a luck roll for explosives. That is a failure of 54 to 47.
No, you don't find any explosives. You find the pieces, or a couple pieces anyway, of what you think might be like something close to either like maybe the barrel of a Lewis gun, but there's no like associated hardware. It looks like maybe it's somebody's project.
Sure.
Maybe somebody who served in World War One. Maybe on the British side is looking to rebuild one, but there's nothing. There's no additional, and plus, even if it was here, getting it out would be impossible.
Sure. I think probably the 10 gauge, right?
I mean, totally up to you.
I feel like it's 10 gauge.
So it is. It's not a pump. It's side by side. It's a double barrel.
Double barrel, yeah.
Yep.
So you get the one or the two shots, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, look for a 10 gauge double barrel.
You find one. It is also fairly intricately appointed. So there are like...
I'm sure somebody loves this gun.
There are like silvered plates on the stock and on the side. It looks like there's a plate on the side of it that says Little Lady. Like someone named it.
We just might have to keep that. Names are important.
Seems that's true.
I say, hey, little lady.
You hear a cat
Do you
meow.
mind? Yeah. I point little lady at it. Probably instinctively.
The cat doesn't stop. It walks into the room.
I track it. Just like trying to get my heart under control again.
It sniffs a bit.
I feel like it's probably never welcome in here.
Probably not. Something crosses your mind as you're like letting it walk around. You're thinking to yourself, I closed the skylight.
I did.
How did it get in here?
How did it get in here? How did you get in here?
It doesn't answer you, obviously.
But you couldn't get out of this room if I locked you in. Kind of sneer at it as I grab a couple revolvers. Are these fellas holding any machetes as well?
It looks like there are a couple of more what you would call Bushman's knives here. Longer, flat
Sure.
blades that maybe not full-on machetes, almost like shortened sabers. But you managed to find a couple of larger blades among them as well.
Well, yeah, if they're going to be hacking through the bush, right?
Yeah, there's also the associated that associated travel gear here too. Like there are full-on like backpacks and like loadouts for travel to all sorts of places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think once I've kind of filled probably 2 bags at this point, right between like firearms and ammunition, I don't actually know that I know how big a 1920s like crossbow would be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't specifically know how big. I would imagine I know what a medieval crossbow looks like, obviously, and about.
I mean, I know what a modern crossbow looks like. Have they always been about the same size?
I think they're probably roughly the same size. You're not going to get any of the fun like collapsible stock stuff that you would get in modern era.
Sure, you have to kind of take it apart to do that.
Yep.
I mean, is there one like assembled here?
You don't see a crossbow readily. You do see a dart gun.
What is that?
You don't know at first, but
I will thoroughly examine it as I am intrigued.
It looks like they have almost the sort of slingshot weapon here, except that there's a long barrel on part of it, and it looks like it uses like 22 caliber ammunition. So like, but they're just using the blasting cap for it. They're not using the actual hardened round.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like it's a 1-for-1 sort of thing. And they have these tubes nearby that at this point you're not sure if there's anything medicinal in them or not, but there does seem to be this sort of long syringe end on one of them.
Like a hypodermic.
Yeah. It's a metallic cylinder, though.
Sure.
Rather than being like a glass cylinder.
I mean, this is a chemist's dream.
Yeah, you're actually kind of interested to see what the doctor might say about something like this.
Tempted to shoot him with it. We had a breakthrough. To shoot anybody with it. But yeah, this does intrigue me well enough to disregard my concern about the crossbow. How loud do I think it is?
You imagine it's as loud as a 22.
Is it 22? Okay.
At least, you know.
Sure. Well, if I can't find a crossbow, I think a traditional bow would be worth grabbing.
Yeah, there's one of those here.
Yeah.
Mostly likely for bird, lighter game.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's like a recurve, right?
Yep.
Yeah. All right,
They've been around in Europe for literally hundreds of years.
Yep. If it's put together, I will, take the arms off and put it in the bag. Yep. Grab a bundle of ammunition for it, whatever they happen to have on hand. I'm guessing they have hunting tips.
Oh yes. Hey, you find a whole lot of sheaf arrows here.
Okay, so feeling a bit more prepared in that sense. I look again at the cat.
Yeah, it's sitting on the a nearby counter, just kind of staring at you, swishing its
We're done
tail back
here.
and forth.
Are you coming? I make my way to the door and stand outside of it, holding onto it with one arm.
Okay. It seems to consider you for a moment and then hops down and kind of pads its way over.
I'll open the door a bit wider. Anytime now.
It eventually gets to the door in, the very long and protracted way that, say, a cat would do that sort of thing.
Yes, because it's on your time. I shut the door behind it. We're definitely not getting out the way that we came in.
You are definitely feeling the weight of all of your newly found objects.
Oh, for sure. No, yeah. These are going to get stashed so that I can use the other 2 bags.
Mm-hmm.
So while I consider my exit, I'm thinking about the loss of my climbers, and I feel like I need to find a way to replace those. So
Right.
I will probably go up to like whatever the tallest floor is of this building and look for a window exit.
Yeah, that's not hard to find. You probably find it on the 3rd floor of the building.
How far away am I from the hotel?
You're probably 4 or 5 blocks at this point.
All right, so I don't feel like jumping around with potentially like over 100 pounds worth of metal in my bag.
Probably not.
So I will make my way to the street. Once again, I will leave, the window open. I don't know whether it's using them or whether it can teleport, but if it wants to get out, I don't want them to shoot it. They're going to be real mad when they get in.
It actually stares at you for a bit from the window.
It's waiting for me to fall.
Probably.
I know what you're waiting for. I would laugh too.
All right, that's a climb roll, sir.
Let's see how bad this goes. How bad luck are you? You are 12 out of 55 hard success luck. I stare at the black cat as I climb down.
You stare, and for a moment, you think the cat nods at you. You're not sure. It could just be the cat moving around. You hit the ground level.
Yeah. Adjust the bags.
Yeah, this is heavier than you thought.
Yeah, I'll probably try to secure the duffel across like the top of my back so I can pair them up at least. I will try to use whatever back streets I can to make my way back to the hotel.
Okay. Yeah, not terribly hard to get back to the hotel. Back streets are relative, right? So Paris has, especially in this area, because it's so close to the Arc, it has a lot of really wide boulevards. What you do though is you end up using a lot of tree cover. So you pick a side of the street where less people are on, and you just kind of keep your pace, and you use the space between these kind of apartment blocks and stuff like that to ferret your way closer to the hotel. But for story purposes, I'm going to have to see a stealth roll given the amount of sheer weaponry that you're carrying.
That's only fair.
It is.
That is a 59 out of 83. That's a success.
Okay. You navigate your way back to the hotel. You find... I assume you are not going in the front entrance?
I feel like I'm carrying luggage as far as I'm concerned. I think I'm just going to stroll to the front door.
Okay.
I'll just have one bag in each hand. So I have like the 2 full, right? I still have the 2 empty ones.
Yep.
And I will nonchalantly roll through the lobby. I will nod to the concierge and make my way upstairs to where my room is.
Okay. You kind of do the thing that you have always been trained to do, and that is, if you know that you're not supposed to be doing something in a specific area, you appear as if you're supposed to be there.
Absolutely.
And it kind of buoys you through past the concierge, who looks like he's about to ask you a question, and then you're gone, so he just doesn't get the opportunity to. And you find your way back up to your room.
Yeah, I roll in, drop the bags off, and once again open the window. While I'm contemplating my next affair with this city, I'm keeping an eye out because I'm tired of being surprised by that cat.
Yeah, the cat does not appear to make any more appearances per se. But you get your items sorted a little bit, and you have a couple more bags you want to fill up. So I guess give me a broad brushstroke of what you're looking for to fill your other bag.
Sure. So I'm definitely requiring a lineman's tool belt and climbers. There is some makeup that I need. Actually, I need an entire kit along with things like hair colorator, hairnet, necessities, things one needs.
Sure.
talcum powder. So I'd likely be looking for a salon of some kind and the lineman stuff. And other than that, I mean, the nights, I can only rob Paris for so long before I get sleepy.
Right. I would say that if you spend the rest of the balance of what you would say is the workable evening, say maybe up to about midnight, acquiring the makeup is easy. A walk through the Paris Theater District will likely afford you the opportunity to simply filch a makeup kit from one of any number of theatrical actors, right? Given the fact that you could easily slip in the back door of a theater while a production was going on, appear as a member who's late, and simply just acquire the necessary items. That's not hard. The climbing stuff is a little challenging for you. Is probably what takes you the longest to acquire that night, and that's because you're looking for something that's very, very, very specific. But what you do eventually find it in is not a shop that you would think you would find it at all. You actually find it in a government building, a city workers building.
That makes sense, sure.
Have to service either monuments or put up, parade or festival decorations. And so after kind of honing in on something like that, probably around 11:30 or so, you end up acquiring a fairly good set of climbers and the lineman's tools that you're looking for.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's pretty much. Okay. Yeah, as far as needs are met, I think my current needs have been met. Anything else is going to end up being utility, which I can get anywhere. These are the difficult to acquire items.
Sure.
Things like rope. I don't need to steal somebody's rope. Well, I was just at a lineman's place, I may as well steal their rope. So right. I steal their rope.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
They'll be able to easily acquire more rope. That's not the issue.
Yeah, I fill the other bags with the rest of the evening, and I guess on the way back to the hotel, I will think about what the nature of our trip to Egypt is actually going to entail. Because I feel like while I know that there are reasons that some members wanted to go to Shanghai, particularly Lawrence, or all of the connections that are bound from the expedition to Egypt. But I guess what I don't know is how much of what we're doing has anything to do with the previous investigation that they were following up on. Like, what is even our agenda now? Everything is kind of askew, and people definitely have their own agendas.
This is true. I think that's become fairly evident that several people now have their own agendas. I think the thing that you would key in on, just having worked a little bit through the clues and through the stories that you'd heard about the original Carlisle expedition to Egypt, was where things went awry for them, where it seemed like the investigation for them got very concentrated in specific parts, and then all of a sudden they decided that they were going to go on a vacation because things had gotten just too difficult or things had gotten stressful, and they ended up going to Nairobi to hang out and to relax, which is not uncommon. I mean, especially on an African vacation expedition, so to speak. Nairobi is a little bit less arid. There's a little bit more in the way of mountains and more of a not temperate's the wrong word, but a little bit different of an atmosphere. And then whatever befell them there in Nairobi was obviously cataclysmic. But I think Sam would be on the watch for a couple of things, right? I think you would be well aware that the group itself here, your group, probably needs to find its center again. It needs to be brought back together and reaffirm what its mission is to make sure everybody's on the same page. And then two, you likely need to sit down with your compatriots and review the information that you have before you arrive in Egypt, because it feels a little like things are spinning. and you need a direction. You need something to point at and say, we are doing this when we get there.
Right. Those are going to be heavy conversations to have with people who will see me as a stranger.
True. True. But I think that Sam would also come to the understanding that if they are going to be a part of what this is, for better or for worse, it's a conversation that they're going to have. Because they need to come to some sort of the same reality that you're living in.
Or I need to figure out which one they're in. I mean, meet them halfway. We'll see. I am going to try to be agreeable. It's part of the plan.
Being agreeable will help you. It'll only eventually further your long-term goals. So I think then Sam has re-outfitted himself at this point. He has a new little lady in his life, which is not a cat.
I'm not really, I couldn't really take good care of a pet right now. That's not the life I can lead. But, a stray's going to stray.
Sure.
Maybe it's not a stray. Maybe it's doing exactly what it wants to be doing. I don't know. It's a cat. While I'm back in my room, after I'm kind of, sorted through the inventory of things, the only thing I will have out is the little lady. I will have it out on the table in front of me while I go through what ultimately is the sheaf of papers that kind of comprise my internal philosophy, that is like comprised of my personal notes and a bunch of decimated and reordered chapter information from like 4 different books written by Jackson Lyons.
Sure.
And I will go to basically the second section of it, which I have titled as my extraordinary reference key, in which I am creating like a loose outline of the materials that I know that we have by the names that I know them of, right? So like the Book of Ebon, and we're like, there's another book that I actually know the name of, but I don't remember which one it is right now. Sorry.
It's okay.
I mean, I have seen like the number of tomes that we have ish.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I would know how big it would need to be, at least at the beginning. But my thought process is that these things haven't been cataloged appropriately. And right now they just represent like a really complex cipher, which makes them impossible to utilize practically. Because in the end, at least to me, I feel like these are the only thing that we have that puts us on even footing with the things we can deal with in the kind of arms race of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
But if we want to make effective use of it, it would be prudent to do like the diligence necessary to index their contents, at least to the best of our ability, so that if there are useful tools in them, we know where to look and what for. Because I feel like right now, the only person that has any notion of that is Maeve O'Shea. And while she is forthwith when asked, we don't always know what questions to be asking. And part of what these tomes do is give you the things to question and ultimately lose your mind over. But we'll get there eventually.
Sounds like you and Maeve maybe need to have a conversation.
It's inevitable. Once I settle in and have taken stock of everything, I will continue to leave the window open. I will relight the lamp in my room. And there's not a bath in my room, right? It's like out there somewhere.
Yeah, there's no bath specifically in your room.
Right. But it's late enough that I would probably be not disturbed. So I'm going to grab some of my new clothes, probably, like my new, I guess, underclothing, and the thick jacket, and some of the self-care supplies that I got from the theater or salon that supplied me with my makeup supplies. And I'm going to go through my messenger bag where I have the slim gray book, the journal that we got from the library of Miser House. And I will pat the French scrolls as well. I close the messenger bag up, and I will retire to the bath while I familiarize myself with the contents of this journal and think about how I'm going to begin adding my first entry into the Extraordinary Library.
Sounds wonderful. Well, you have an awful lot to get to in the journal, but more on that in the future. So I want to thank all of our listeners for joining us for this Spotlight episode on Sam. Specifically, I want to thank Alex for joining me. And we will get to see you rejoin the group after a short time away, now that you're in a different shape, but yet back together. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what happens in season 4.
Super excited.
Have a good night, everybody.